I feel like we're on a different night. The last 3 weeks, our normal night Sunday, but then last time we were on a Saturday. Tonight it's a Tuesday.
It
It's
feels like it's been three
summertime.
weeks since we've done this.
I know. I feel do we do one? Yeah, we did one when you get back from vacation,
Yeah.
right? I think that Sunday night or Monday
hmm
or something.
Monday morning.
And that's right. Yeah, we've been all over the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, um, I know it has felt like it's been a while. Um, but it's summertime. All the days run together. I've only got a week of summer left. No, less than that. Oh my God. See, I keep on thinking like today's Sunday. It's not. It's
Oh,
Tuesday. I've got less than a week left of summer before.
I thought you'd already gone back to the schoolhouse.
Well, a lot of people, I say a lot of people, admin teams have. My position was not funded under admin stuff,
Okay.
so I don't have to report until Monday.
There you
Thank
go.
goodness. Yeah, I'll take those extra 5 days. Um,
If I was you, I'd
and
be
what?
like, my position is not funded until August 11th. I'll see y'all then.
See, yeah, yeah, go for it. And they'll be like, you just stay at home.
Yeah.
We don't worry about coming in.
You are chronically absent. You are gone.
They won't be sending anybody to knock on my door like we do with kids that are chronically absent. They'll just be like, you can stay home. Um, we are in the middle of a heat dome, they call it, right? A massive heat wave, and you're outside.
Uh-huh.
It is July
22nd.
22nd. Man, I don't know about you, Brandon. In the summer, it may not be the same for you because you work year round.
Right.
I've got a few weeks every summer where I don't.
Right.
I lose track of days and dates in the summer. Do you do that, or are you pretty good about keeping up with them?
I am this summer because I've tried to do a better job of like being on top of things and being more organized and stuff. So my Google Calendar is getting worn out. Uh, so I'm doing a better job of staying on top of what day it is. But yeah, I mean, I was out of town last or a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I struggled that week.
Real quick, but before I get into the rundown,
Yeah.
we were on a group text, me and you and Chuck, and we were having some serious conversation
Oh my goodness.
about tag teams in
Yes.
wrestling, in professional wrestling. Okay,
Yeah.
so I said my favorite tag team was Sting and Lex Luger, and then I put in parentheses if you can consider them a tag team.
Right.
And at that point, I kind of stepped out of the group text because I was in Pennsylvania and there was just a lot of stuff going on, and so I couldn't quite get back to it. But I skimmed it and I noticed that I think you agreed with me because I don't know that I would consider them a tag team either. How would you qualify what makes a tag team in
For
90s wrestling?
for our discussion yesterday, it would be the guys who came up and made their name as a tag team. So you don't put Sting and Lex Luger in there. You don't put the Outsiders in there because
Mm,
all four of those guys got big. And then it's
I
like,
see.
hey, let's put these two together and let's have them battle Hogan and Savage or have them change the entire industry. Um,
Okay, that's fair. That's a good way to look at it.
yeah.
So you're
So,
saying that they've got to gain their notoriety as a tag team first.
but then if you do that, then it's like, do we count anybody in the Horsemen? Because they just kind of they all got kind of big, and then they all were just kind of out at the ring at the same time, cutting a promo. And I think one of the andrews was like, "This right here is the four horsemen of the apocalypse," and it just stuck after that. So, and there were so many tag teams in that group: Arn and Tully, and Arn and Wyndham, and Arn and Ole, and
I,
um,
I think you can count. I think Arn and Tully can count as a tag team. And maybe that's just me wanting to count them as a tag
yeah,
team, but I feel like that's where they got their most notoriety as that tag team
right.
because they went to WWF as that tag team,
That's a
right?
good
Like
point.
they
Yeah,
so at the Brainbusters or whatever they were called. So anyway, I just wanted to see kind of where you landed on that, like what qualifies a team to be a legitimate tag team and not just you know
I mean, because
placed
another
together.
name that never got mentioned during that text conversation yesterday that I kept wanting to, and I never pulled the trigger. Rock and Sock Connection.
No. Yes, that was good. I mean, they were good, but they can't. But again, I go back. I like the way that you define it because they were superstars as singles wrestlers, and they put them together as rock and sock or whatever. I
Yeah.
just don't think you have a lot of tag teams nowadays who come up as tag teams. I think it's sort of like they get paired together. You know, you got a few here and there, but the Usos, I guess,
Yeah.
you know, but
But like New
now
Day
they're
was just three different guys that they just kind of threw together, and then they kept them together for over a decade. So, yeah.
pop quiz. Do you remember the first faction where they had the rules of, let's say you had a like, there's a faction of four. Two of the members of the group are tag team champs, but then you could substitute anybody in for one of those people to defend the belts. Do you remember the original group who did that?
I remember the New Age Outlaws rule that if there was a multi-team uh, match, like more than two teams, and two guys from the same team were tagged in at the same time, they couldn't pin each other to win the match.
Right?
It wasn't DX, was it?
Nope. This is 80s, 1980s.
Oh, Freebirds?
Freebird rules. Yes. So I think you had Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, Jimmy Garvin, and they were interchangeable. Wolfpack did that too, I think, when they had the belts. So like Sting and Luger would defend them one time, then it was Nash and Sting, and like they would just whoever. So
And
I kind of like that.
there's that stupid time where Sting and the Giant were tag team champs, and then Giant turned on Sting, so they had to fight at a pay per view, and whoever won was the tag team champion. And then he would go to pick his own partner, and that would be the new tag team champions. Mm-hmm. Really great stuff.
It is. We should just start a whole new podcast talking about 90s wrestling.
The Monday Night Wars postcast.
Yes, I can talk about that forever. But we've got to talk about important stuff. So
some people think we already have.
That's true. Here's the rundown for tonight. The July 17th edition of the Jackson Post. So we're a few days late covering this, but that's all right. We got some good stuff in here. This is going to be heavy sports tonight. All right. But first thing we're going to discuss is the I can never say this word. Meteorology camp that was put on here in Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to really say a lot about it because I don't know a lot about it. So we're going to leave that for the discussion when we get into it. JMCSS once again rejects a charter application. This would be the fourth time
if you count two for each one. Yeah,
two for each one. Yep, fourth time overall. When we get into that discussion, I see there's some striking differences. I believe in the two applications, same result, very different situations. So, third story that we're going to discuss is the Jackson Symphony. That was kind of a big deal a couple weeks ago. I saw a lot of my friends on social media responding to it. I don't have a dog in that hunt, and I don't really understand a lot about it. So I will leave the heavy lifting to you on that to break that down for all of us. And then we're going to pivot to sports after that. We got some big sports stories. Javante Smith committing to University of Tennessee. He is a senior at Northside High School. Jana Kaler to lead Trinity Christian Academy girls basketball program. The interim label was removed, and now she is the full-time head coach. If I mispronounced this name, correct me. Lakai Tompkins, is that?
Yep.
All right. He is transferring to IMG, I believe, because he wanted to go to USJ. Hardship didn't get approved, or maybe it was still in process. They just didn't like it.
No, it was rejected back in February, March.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I think a huge story is Trey Smith became the highest paid offensive guard in NFL history from the Jackson area, graduated from University School of Jackson and UT Knoxville. So I don't know. I feel like everybody knows that Trey is from around here because it's constantly brought up. But I think in how much he's talked about, sometimes in a way, I think can kind of dilute how good that he really is. Because I think everybody just thinks, oh, he's an NFL player and he's from Jackson. That's enough. I don't know that we appreciate like how good of an NFL player Trey Smith is.
Took him 4 years to get to the Pro Bowl. But
Yeah.
I mean, that right there. I remember a couple years ago when he came back home during the season for USJ to, well, I don't know. Maybe I should get into all that when we're actually discussing him. But yeah, he's definitely proven himself to be one of the best in the world at what he does.
He's incredible. All right, well, let's get to it. So the first thing is the meteorology camp that took place in Jackson. And obviously, weather is a big deal, especially right now when we are in the throes of Dante's seventh layer of hell. It is scorching right now. Heat index usually of over 110 all week. Um, so what did these students learn about weather other than it's really hot in the summer in West Tennessee?
Well, it was a 2-day camp. It was put on by UTM Center on the campus of Jackson State. So it was at Jackson State. But UTM is bringing their meteorology program to Jackson State this fall. So it's kind of a way to kind of integrate that and kind of get people around here talking about it. And so the first day they had Mo Shamel from WBBJ and a representative of the National Weather Service from Memphis in to kind of talk about. I mean, it was Q&A. I wasn't there for it. I was told about it, and it was like they finally had to cut the kids off because they kept asking questions, particularly from Mo. And I've been around Mo a couple of times. I don't know if Mo would know me if we walked in the same room together, but we judged a barbecue contest together a couple years ago or before COVID. And I mean, I would ask him a question about weather, and he could talk for like 3 hours straight just answering that question. And it wasn't like boring talk. It was like I'm riveted listening to you talk. Like keep talking. So I imagine if I'm like that, the kids were like that with him too. And then the next day, I got to be in there as they were kind of discussing how to create safe buildings that can withstand weather, and that's what the picture is of them. They made houses with popsicle sticks and glue, almost like Vacation Bible School, and then once they made them and the the glue dried. Shaylee Snyder, who is the instructor over the camp, would first take a small fan and be like, "This is a thunderstorm." Would the house handle it? Yes, it would. Then she dropped some small marbles on it. This is hail, and most of the houses withstood the hail. Then she took a leaf blower to uh, uh, mimic a tornado, and the houses stayed together, but the pie pan that they were glued to, that's their foundation, did not stay on the ground. So they blew across the city, but the house was still fine. So I think we just need to work with them on the foundation, and we might have some nice architects and developers there.
I was going to say, it sounds like we need to get a copyright on these structures that can withstand high winds.
Exactly.
So, did you take this picture? I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like you caught in action. The structure is hovering off the ground in the picture. Did you know that? Yeah. Well
I'll. I mean, I got video and took a screenshot, but I still took it. So
still counts.
Leave me alone. Yeah,
that'll work. No. I think it's really cool because weather has been in the news a lot lately, and I feel like it's going to continue to be in the news a lot. You had obviously the flooding tragedy in Texas. You've had these awful stretches of heat domes that have been happening more frequently. Flooding has. I don't know if you saw New York City earlier
No.
this week or last week. The flood that they had there into the
Oh, wow.
subways. Just a lot of flash flooding. So I think weather is going to be very important to A, understand, and then B, how do you, not combat these issues? Because really, there's only so much you can do once weather hits. So it's being aware of it and then knowing what to expect at certain times, I guess.
And
Where was?
even
Oh, go ahead.
even with the Texas thing, I mean, that issue got political for a minute when the local leaders started blaming the National Weather Service. And then, of course, everybody was like, well, the Trump administration has cut funding to the National Weather Service, so there's not as many people. And weather, somehow, I mean, like pretty much everything in our society is becoming more and more politicized. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid that we're just going to continue to see that as temperatures stay hot, rains keep falling, and these situations happen every now and then, and people want to know why and how they could have stopped it.
And that's so weird because I feel like, I mean, like you said, everything is political. Like weather shouldn't be political. Like weather should be something that you can just look at and say, yes, here's this is happening. Here's the trend. This has been happening for X amount of years. Mm-hmm. This part of the weather is getting worse. This part of the weather is getting better. What does that mean? How do we adapt? Like, what can we do to fix it? Like, none of that should be political. Of course, it is political,
right?
And you know, I'm gonna sort of quote my journalistic hero Jon Stewart,
right?
Where he was talking about this. He was like, I forgot what his words were, but basically, like the last thing that we should be doing as a society after a tragedy happens is trying to figure out which political party is responsible for it.
Right.
Right. Like, you know, maybe there's a time for that conversation on down the road. It's not 5 hours after it happened, whatever that tragedy was.
That's like saying, hey, dude, I just got diagnosed with lung cancer. Well, you shouldn't have been smoking for the last 30 years, you doofus.
Right.
Like time and place.
Yeah. And then there are times for those conversations, right? But it is not immediately in the aftermath of a tragedy that nobody on either side of the aisle wanted to happen, right? Nobody wants those things to happen. So anyway, I think Meteorology Camp is cool. I really like, and I'm not being facetious. I think that it's something that, and the reason I want to talk about it tonight is because it's like when you think of camps, especially in the summer, you think of like maybe sports camps or other kind of camps. Like this is the first time I've heard of something like this, and I think it's an important subject, honestly, to learn about. Where was Joel? Did the other WBJ weatherman not get invited to this thing? Do you know? They were like, "Now your vest is too small. You can't have that in here." I think that's what it is. All right.
Honestly, he never came up during the interview. So
okay, I was wondering. I figure he'll make a post complaining that he wasn't invited to this at some point.
He was too busy analyzing his severe weather coverage with Ryan Halls.
Compare and contrast. Almost in a Venn diagram to that post. Like here's what y'all both do well. Here's where he does a lot of things better than you. Okay. Next. And this is, I think, where we're going to spend maybe the bulk of this time. Jackson-Madison County School System, again, rejected a charter school application from Jackson Museum School. This is the second time they've rejected Jackson Museum School's application. I believe, and you can speak to this more, the first time was because there were some concerns with the budget.
And the curriculum, too.
And the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
This time, was the rejection based again on those things, or were there more things that came into play with this second rejection?
There were some findings by the Charter Review Committee. Sorry, I got my back itching here. There were some findings by the Charter Review Committee that weren't found the first time around that they cited as deficiencies. So I don't know if JMS kind of put those in there and that was new, or if they did a more thorough job of reading the second time around and said, hey, we missed this. This is not a good thing. But yeah, and a lot of the deficiencies that were there in April were still there, according to them, in July.
Okay. Now, there is a rubric the state gives school boards to essentially score these applications.
Mm-hmm.
You referenced in your column, which we'll get to your personal column that you wrote about this situation in a minute. But in that personal column, you referenced Dale Thomas. I think it was in the personal column. It might have been.
This was. I made Dale the primary character in my actual story.
That was in the story. Okay,
yeah.
So you referenced him reading that litany of negatives about ACE, right? Wait, this was back a couple years ago, and he had to there were so many things wrong with ACE's application that he had to take a water break, hydrate himself, and continue.
Like Ricky Catlett had to bring him a bottle of water, and he chugged that thing like he had just run a marathon.
He did, yes, because it was so bad. Or I shouldn't say that. Let me back up. That's an opinion.
It was
The
so tedious.
It was so tedious, and there were so many things that uh, the whoever was charged with analyzing ACE's application, there were so many deficiencies they found according to the rubric.
Right.
This was not that. So JMS's application, that this wasn't one of those situations.
No, it still took him about 10 minutes to read it, and he needed water toward the end. But yeah.
But JMS scored much better
Yes.
as far as the way the rubric is laid out by the state.
Like if this were a test, they would have made probably a C+.
Right. So, and there the curriculum issue, but essentially what I read in the story, there were the issues were more of financial things, right? Like one, there was no building. And I never really understood on either side, like ACE or JMS, like if you're going to start a school, you got to have a building. So why, like that would be, I think, priority one for me. Where are we going to have school? I need to sort of secure a space for that.
Right.
But neither one of these charters did that on the front end.
Right.
So
I do remember when I was challenging ACE's people 2 years ago on it, and I was like, you don't even have a space. Well, and it wasn't with Philip Schwenk, who's the director. It was his media liaison person, and he responded like that was the dumbest thing that anybody's ever said to him, because he was like, we're applying to put a school there. We're not going to go to the expense of buying a building or buying some land and starting to build a building until we know that we're going to be approved for the thing. I'm like, well, you're probably going to be approved by the state anyway, so why don't y'all just go ahead and do it? He didn't. He's like, we still want to get approved by the local. I'm like, okay, good luck.
And it's important to note at this point too that ACE did get approved by the state. It got forced onto the school system, and then ACE said, "We're not. Just kidding. We're not ready. We're not going to do it." They pulled out.
They figured out, we don't need to try to start 5 at the same time. We got one over here that we're actually doing over here in Rutherford County. Let's make sure that one's going well, and then I expect them to come back again probably within the next 5 years, trying to come to Madison County again.
So something I read in here, and I have a question about this, and I listened to the work session when a lot of this was discussed, and Dr. King was talking about it, and he did mention teacher pay. As sort of a negative for JMS, because they were going to offer, I think, $50,000, almost like a flat rate is what is the way I understood it. Okay. So here's my question, and maybe you may not know this. You may be the wrong person to ask this question to.
Yeah.
Why? How does that affect whether or not a school gets approved? Like, because if you're going to go teach there, nobody's going to force somebody to go teach at JMS. They're going to make that decision on their own. So I guess I struggled to know, why is teacher salary even an object of contention from JMCSS? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, all that happened while I was in Florida, and I thought about calling Chairman Walden or even Dr. King himself and asking about this, but I didn't, because I figured I could write the story, and it's an informative enough story without getting into that. So I'll just get totally speculatory for a minute. But JMCSS in the last 5 years, since Dr. King's been there, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, have invested a lot of money in improving teachers' pay. I mean, in 2020 when he got here, the base pay was 42? Is that right? Maybe even high 30s.
Yeah, we may have been barely over 40 at that point in 2020.
And now it's up to 52. So, it might have been our base people are getting paid 52. What kind of quality teachers are you going to get for this charter school that you're saying is going to be a better school that will help Jackson-Madison County schools numbers? How are you going to get these great teachers if you're offering them less money than what they can get here.
Mm.
So that's my thing, and I could be way off. If Dr. King is watching this, he's probably watching it live because I think he subscribes to this podcast or on YouTube.
Mhm.
Feel free to text me and let me know, sir.
He's one of our 11.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. That's why I asked you. I'm glad that you said that because for I was racking my brain. I was like, why is this even teachers are going to choose to teach here? Nobody's going to force them to teach there.
Yeah.
But okay, I can get behind that. The other thing is the professional development wasn't up to standards because it largely depended on the presence of an assistant principal that would administer the professional development.
Right.
As somebody who's been attending professional developments for 20 years,
Right.
I would have to say that, well, let me back up before I say that. I do think there are things during the school year, ongoing professional development happens within a school building. So it's not just these big events that happen at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year.
Right.
Professional development happens all the time. So as I am saying this stuff out loud, I'm also walking back the point that I was about to make because that is important. I don't know that that would be a big enough reason to deny a charter school's application, because it is important. But at the same time, if you're a brand new school and you're just trying to get up and running, my thing would be the most important things: curriculum. What's the curriculum like? And how are you going to take care of the students that we are putting you in charge of? Are
Yeah.
you going to support them behaviorally, academically, emotionally, all of those things?
Right.
Um, and then this was interesting too. The school's funding proposal was largely dependent on every student in the school being either a child living in conditions of poverty or struggling to learn the English language.
Yes.
So obviously, those students under TISA, which is the funding formula the state has assigned to public school districts in Tennessee, uh, those students get more money allocated to them. Students who are below the poverty line and student like ELL students.
Right.
So I guess that's what museum school was expecting is like, hey, almost all of our kids are going to fall into these two categories, so we're going to get that extra funding from TISA. Is that the way did I read that right?
That's according to what the charter review committee was saying, and from Dr. Vivian Williams and Dale Thomas, that's how they read it.
Um, the vote ended up being 6-2. Uh, Jason Compton was absent, I believe you
Right.
said in the article, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the only two school board members who voted for JMS were the Golfs,
Right.
Glenn and Debbie,
Right.
right? Father, mother and son
Mm-hmm.
combination on the school board. And Glenn said, I'm trying to find this quote right here. And this, I thought this was interesting because, and I didn't know this, it seems like there's only a certain amount of rejections a school board has in their pocket
Yeah.
and how many is that?
I think it's like 3 and 5 years or 5 and 3 years, something like that. I'd never heard of it until April when they rejected it, and he was the one that voted against rejecting it back in April. And when I asked him about it after the meeting, that was the main thing, and then the second reason was I'm okay with the proposal they've given us. I'm okay with this school being in our county teaching our kids. Uh, but yeah, apparently they are limited to how many they can reject.
Yeah, because he said, I want to save our actions to reject applications for those that warrant it.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen one of those, in my opinion, yet. Now, here's it's funny because most people who know me would probably think I would never agree with Glenn on anything. I do on this. Like I actually thought, hey, this museum school is interesting. I think it's something that some of our students in our district could benefit from.
Right.
Ace, on the other hand, I don't know how he could see that would not warrant a rejection, but that's his
Well, he
opinion.
wasn't on the board when
That's
Ace
okay.
applied.
That's fair. That's fair. Um, so the charter school thing is pretty fascinating to me. not so much for the way that it unfolds, but what it seems like right now to me is, and JMCSS is going to look more for reasons not to approve one than to approve one. Is that? Do you think that's a fair statement or no?
It definitely looks like that. I'm not going to say that that's accurate.
Hmm.
But if I had just moved here in 23 and didn't know a lot of the players and a lot of the context behind everything, it definitely does look like that. And I mean, that's 10 people up there, counting Dr. King and the 9 school board members who believe in what Jackson Madison County Schools is doing. So if they really do believe in what Jackson Madison County Schools is doing, and they see that the scores are slowly starting to improve, and scores are going up, truancy they're hoping this year, and that's chronic absenteeism is about to go down. Uh, then yeah, I mean it's totally understandable for them to be like, what we got here is working. We don't need somebody else coming in here trying to do what we're doing. Um, so I'm not going to say that's an accurate statement, but if anybody is to think that that's what it is, then that opinion has merit.
Yeah. And look, I think obviously I'm employed by them. I think that the school system is doing some really good things too. I also would argue that just because a charter school comes in, it doesn't mean that JMCS isn't doing really good things. This is just adding something else good.
Mhm.
If it's a good charter school, it's
Right,
just adding something else for students in our community
right.
that may could use a smaller environment, smaller class size. Like I think those are things that aren't talked about enough for a charter school too, because you're going to have obviously it's going to be a smaller student population, and
Hmm.
anybody in a classroom who's been teaching in a classroom knows you can get a lot more accomplished in a room of 13 kids compared to a room of 25 kids. So I don't know. I think there are just some things out there that we look at curriculum, we look at all these other things. There are some things that are often overlooked, I think, that could positively impact students who are in a charter school as well. But again,
Yeah.
like I understand where both sides are coming from. You talked to Jean Little. Was she disappointed? Was she surprised at the vote, or what was her response to getting
Um,
rejected a second time?
yeah, I think she expected, or at least she tried to give the image that she expected an approval. Um, and um, she's like, we wanted to partner with them, but apparently they weren't interested in partnering with us. So we're going to go to the state and see if the state will partner with us. And so JMCSS doesn't get to be a part of that partnership. Is essentially
This
what
will
she
be
said.
so. How does that work then? We got to like if the state approves it, the school system has no say over anything
Pretty
that
much,
school does, but money that would be allocated for students who leave the system and go to the charter school goes to the charter school, right?
right?
Wow. So yeah, it's taking a risk because the state's probably going to push it through. If they pushed ACE through, they're going to push this through. I would think. I would assume.
Well, I mean, Ace is a different animal because of the whole college connection and
That's true.
Billy and all that stuff. So I don't know if it's as automatic now as it was 2 years ago. But we'll see.
There were two columns, yours and one by Larry
Larry Greer.
Greer, um, that discuss this topic. I want to start with yours. And the title of yours is Education Should Be Based on Integrity No Matter the Source. So you looked at two sides to something. And I'm not going to you wrote it. So I'm going to kind of let you talk through your thought process of this. Um,
Okay.
you mentioned ACE at the beginning. There's no need to dredge all that up again, but I do want to connect to something a little more current. So, what are sort of the let me go back to your title. I'm sorry. What were the two sides you were not arguing but discussing in this column, where you talked about education should be based on integrity, no matter what the source of that education is?
So right before at the Thursday meeting, right before the board voted whether or not to approve this application, Andrea Michelle Givens Moore got the floor and she spoke, and she spoke passionately. Um, and I wasn't in the room, but when I'm watching it back on video later, which quick pause, there's a lot in this paper that was kind of old news because I was in Florida that week. So my apologies for that. Hopefully we're a little more uh, current the rest of the time now. But just watching the YouTube video, uh, this Givens Moore was passionate. And the whole time she was talking, she was staring a couple of holes right through Gene Little, Doctor Little, with JMS, the proposed principal director of the school. If looks could kill, we would have covered Doctor Little's funeral when I got back from Florida. But I mean, she said we don't know you. Uh, we don't think what you're doing is good for our county or good for our school system, good for my district. So I am committed to the school district that educated me and educated my children and is going to educate my grandchildren. And then she took a turn and she just kind of just almost glancing mentioned that apparently there were some emails that were sent to her, and I later found out multiple board members, that there was some questions about how legit the emails were when you consider where they came from, and uh, they all went to the board members and encouraging them to approve the application. But there was a lot of inaccuracies about the people who were sending these emails. So it brought into question: were these emails legit, or was somebody on JMS's behalf drumming them up to try to make things go in their favor? I talked a little about it. Uh, she said nobody hacked their system. Uh, they don't know anybody who could hack JMCSS's system. So she said, I don't know where they got that. I don't know. She said, I can just tell you we didn't do it. So, um, but I was given a couple of screenshots and I did some research based on the screenshots I was given. I didn't put the person's info in the story. I'm not going to mention it here, but the person in the email said they lived in a certain district for one or two school board members, and it went to that school board member. But according to the address that was at the end of their email, they lived in another district, and it was just like, how are you going to get your like you're an adult? How are you going to get your address wrong? So, just a lot of questioning there.
Makes sense. Yeah. And obviously you said Gene Little said like we didn't intentionally do that or we don't know anything about that. Which I mean, she's gonna be like, yeah, dang, we tried. Oh well, didn't work. So that is interesting. I feel like I don't know, man. That's a kind of a heady move to make if you're a charter school trying to get into a district and you send out fake emails. Like I don't know. I don't know how believable that seems to me, but also, I mean, if obviously you saw addresses that were wrong on those things, so I just
Well, and
can't
also,
imagine that somebody would intentionally do that.
yeah, um, yeah, and I got no reason to not trust Dr. Little when she tells me they didn't do it. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to accuse her of lying or that she did do it. But like I said in the column, I mean, she kind of said, well, maybe JMCSS tried to make it look like we did it. It's like, okay, yeah, I suppose that's a possibility too. But somebody on some side is being dishonest here. And the point of the column was, if y'all want to come in and educate our kids, 2 years ago we had a charter school wanting to come in, and they're talking about, oh yeah, we've talked to all these people in East Jackson, we've knocked on these doors, we've talked to, but not a single elected official who represents East Jackson said they had ever heard from Ace directly, and none of their constituents has ever said they heard from Ace. And we're not even getting into Juanita Jones and Keep My Hood Good.
Oh
And
God.
because they had said they had talked to her, and she's like, I haven't talked to them one time. They couldn't even get Keep My Hood Good right in the application. So if you're going to come and try to educate the kids, just be honest about it. Because an education, just like in my job, dispensing information, all that is based on honesty and truth and integrity. Because if I can't trust your methods of trying to get a charter school in Madison County, how am I going to be able to trust the content that you're going to teach the kids once they get in your classroom?
Oh yeah. There was a comment on the online version on social media of this column, and I liked the comment, and then I commented, and then I deleted the comment
Boo.
because I was like, I know, I was like, this isn't going to be productive. But essentially, what my comment was this: is that in a lot of ways, public education has already been privatized. I mean, not even just with the vouchers or even a lot of these charters coming in. Even if you didn't have either one of those, the textbook companies that peddle stuff constantly to school systems, the testing companies who the state spends literally millions of dollars, for that process, the standards that are wrapped up in those tests. And so it's all like our kids are being educated in essence based on those millions of dollars that go to Pearson because those tests determine what we consider successful or not. And it's really frustrating as somebody who's been there for a long time to sort of see like how much, like, I don't want to say corporate influence or money really impacts the way that we teach kids now. Um, and it brings me to the other column that Larry Greer wrote. And
Yep.
Larry, who is I would consider a friend of mine. Like
Right.
we don't hang out, but we're I would say we're friends.
Yeah.
We think along the same lines on a lot of things, but I I haven't liked the way that the local Democratic Party has positioned themselves to be automatically against any type of charter school that comes in to apply without even hearing what they're going to be about first. And
Hmm.
I think no matter what side you're on, if you always start in this position of, well, we're not going to do this based on ideological political principles, I mean, we're not doing our students and families, we're doing them a disservice in Jackson if that's the starting point that we have, regardless of what side you're on. If the starting point is I'm not going to be for this because the other side is for it, or vice versa, then we're not getting anywhere. And I think I was a little bit disappointed in in that group essentially for coming out beforehand and seemingly saying we're not like we're not going to support any charter school that applies here. And
Right.
I think if your starting point is that, then like nothing, I don't think any good change can happen.
Yeah.
It's just going to stifle it. I mean,
Well, and I do want to clarify. I mean, I don't think that anything in Larry's column. Larry is the former chair of the Madison County Democratic Party. I don't think anything in the column would have, if he was a Democrat under hiding, that would have outed him. So at the end of the column, when I have that tagline for him, I didn't mention his Democratic loyalties. Uh,
right.
but yeah, I mean, like that night when they had the public comments and all the people who spoke, everyone who spoke in favor of JMS was a board member at JMS. Everyone who spoke against JMS were members of the Democratic Party. I don't remember any Republicans standing up and speaking, but it was Debbie Swacker, Sheila Godwin, Claudel Brown. I'm not sure if Harold Carter is an official member of the Democratic Party, but NAACP takes a lot of anti-Republican stances. So um, a lot of yeah, a lot of people on the blue team were standing against this, and the foundational element to it is we just don't want anything that's going to take money away from our public school system. So
I get that. I understand that. There's a quote he said in here: "We do not need to put at-risk students at greater risk with a flawed startup school." Here's my thing. I work with at-risk students every day. I've worked with at-risk students for 20 years. There are some things that at-risk students that I feel like I'm not saying Jackson Museum School is perfect. It's not. There are some things that charter school seemingly would have offered that I think would greatly benefit at-risk students that
mhm,
they may not get right now. And I don't. And it's really just simply the exposure to things outside of the walls of a school building.
mhm,
And for a lot of our kids, that is probably the most important thing that they are missing when it comes to learning. This
right,
ability to connect things outside of their neighborhood or their school walls that are occurring in the world that maybe they see on TV or they hear somewhere or they see on social media but don't have any experience with in real life. Like
mhm,
we that we have to shift that somehow. And if it's a charter school that can do it, then Lord, bring a charter school in and let them do it. But
yeah,
anyway, it's an interesting conversation to have, and I'm glad people are passionate about it. It means they're involved and they're paying attention, so that's
yep,
good. All right. Boy, I don't want to talk about this, but let's do it. The symphony. I'm gonna let you do this. Okay, a few weeks ago, I guess there's a new director of the symphony.
hmm
Is director the right term? I don't know what they
yeah,
call him.
yeah. Back in
The
the spring,
maestro.
the maestro, the conductor, they
Oh,
announced a new conductor because I was about to say David Shannon, but that's the president of Freed Hardman, Peter Shannon. He left the symphony, and they hired a new one and announced his hiring earlier this spring. Right after the season ended, and right after his announcement came tryouts for the symphony. And apparently that's something that hadn't been done in a while. And a lot of the musicians, mainly from Nashville and Memphis, a few from here in Jackson and rural West Tennessee, didn't care for that because um, apparently the leadership said, we want to grow the symphony. We want to take the next step with the symphony. The way to take the next step with the symphony is have uh, even more musicians be professional musicians. I'm not sure what the previous ratio was of professional to people who are really good, but they're doing it as a hobby. But they want an all professional orchestra, and so a lot of people were apparently misled. If they weren't just flat out rejected at the beginning, they weren't happy about it. There is an American Musicians Federation that has chapters in Memphis and Nashville, and the two chapters sent out a joint press release, saying publicly, letting people know how they disagreed with how the Jackson Symphony did it, uh, and they're really. It was very frustrating for them because apparently there were some musicians who had been with the symphony for 30 years. They were like a family, and they're pretty much breaking that family up. And it does sound like a bad situation. But then the next day, the symphony put out a press release saying, uh, pretty much saying all the stuff about being dishonest and stuff like that is inaccurate, and how they handled the tryouts were pretty much how tryouts at most symphony orchestras like them is handled. Um, it's just that they hadn't been handled this way in Jackson before, and that's where a lot of the rub was coming from. So, but both sides have spoken. It's been about 3 weeks when all this happened. Nothing's happened since. So I imagine it's been put to bed unless somebody's going to sue or something. And if that happens, then expect more stories about that.
All right. Symphony. Fun. All right, let's get to some sports talk.
All right.
We got a lot of sports talk to cover. 4 stories. This is a big sports section in this July 17th edition. First
3
one
of the
is
events happened while I was in Florida. I appreciate that.
wow. Do you really appreciate it, or you wanted to be there though?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Giovanni Smith announced when he was going to commit, and it was like, dang, I'm out of town next week. And he was supposed to commit like 2 weeks earlier. It's like, I was here then, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
He did it on his birthday, so good for him.
What schools was he looking at? Like, who were his choices?
All right, so he's got about 20 offers from D1 schools. He had announced in June a Final Four that was Tennessee, West Virginia, Missouri, and Arkansas. And honestly, I was starting to wonder if he might go to West Virginia because the head coach at Northside is Woodrow Lowe, whose son signed out of Bolivar about 10 years ago and went to West Virginia. There was also an offensive lineman that same year who went to West Virginia too, Bryson Mays. So there's a relationship between Coach Lowe and West Virginia. Also, Southern Miss had offered him, and Woodrow's son, Trey Lowe, had actually transferred to Southern Miss and played quarterback there his last 1 or 2 years of college ball. So, but Southern Miss went one of his Final Four. But Tennessee, I think, was the first D1 school that offered him. They offered him in October of 23 when he went there on a visit. And Coach Heupel and that whole crew there, they stayed with him. They were pretty committed to him, and he liked it. So he said, "That's where I'm going to go."
Wow, that's a big. So he'll be a senior this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. DeVonta Smith. Northside opens at JCM.
Yep.
First game of the season, possibly at no, it probably won't be at Hub City Central.
No, it won't.
That'd be nice.
If it's going to be there, then it's probably going to snow tonight.
That's right. Yeah.
Is JCM the home team in that game?
Yeah, because it was at Northside last year.
Well, I mean, it's a new 2-year contract, so that they could play at Northside again this year, with the hopes that JCM would have a home stadium next year to host them. But
it is a home game for JCM this year.
Okay, so it'll be at Lane Field.
Yes,
the building formerly known as Rothrock Stadium.
Tell you what, man, that I drove by the new field. It's looking good. They got the lines marked. There's some people on social media though not too happy that JCM's name wasn't on the field. Did you see that?
I did not see that, but I do know I've been kind of expecting that because JMCSS is touting that as JMCSS's field. But you and I both know, and the millions and millions of listeners and viewers of this podcast know, that Northside and Southside, with their decades of history at Reynolds Stadium and whatever the official name of Southside Stadium is, Gary Hayes Memorial or whatever, that the Hawk Nest, that unless an F5 drops down on their campus and blows that stadium away, there is no way Northside or Southside is going to play a home game on a green and gold field. Now, JCM's name's not on it, but it's green and gold, and it's right next to JCM's school. So, yeah, it's JCM's, but yeah,
it'd be nice, because I do know when we had the groundbreaking there, Northside principal wasn't there, Southside principal wasn't there, JCM was. JCM cheerleaders were. Yeah, it's just because it's JCM's field.
Right.
It's supposed to be JCM's field.
And there was put
our name on it.
AJ Massey, the county mayor, he's a JCM grad. Tina Mercer, who was part of the groundbreaking, she's a JCM grad. They were all talking about should have been a Cougar, should have been a Cougar. There was no talk about the other mayor and the doing the hawk clap.
Right.
So
Just
yeah,
saying.
and
Either way, look, it's a very minor detail. It's going to be great. It looks great. It's going to be awesome.
and which, by the way, that was a large rabbit trail from Giovanni Smith.
No, I know. I just wanted to sneak that in there because,
Yeah.
I saw it yesterday on social media. I drove by the field today, and I was like, sure enough, don't see
I haven't
it.
driven by it since they put the turf down. I need to drive over there.
Yeah, man, it looks good. They got the yard lines, the field markings in. Yeah, I did see. It looked like though the end zone lettering was black rather than green, but that may have been the angle. The end zones are yellow,
Okay.
and it looked as if the lettering was black, but
I'll have to go. I gotta go look at it.
go look at it. All right, moving to a different sport and to
Yeah.
private schools. Jana Kaler has been picked. Did I say her name right? Kaler?
Yeah.
Did I say that right? All right.
Right.
Has been picked to lead the Lady Lions, TCA Lady Lions. She was assistant coach there. Matt Coble stepped down from that position a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, 6
End of
weeks ago,
May,
something like that.
May
End of
30th.
May. May 30th. And they named Coach Kaler the interim, and then they just said, nah, we'll just make her full-time head coach. Did you talk to Dexter over at TCA at all, or just Jana or anybody to say, I didn't know if they gave a reason why they went interim and then 6 weeks later just said, we'll just go ahead and make her head coach.
Well, I mean, they want to make sure that they're going to get the right coach. And very rarely will a new coach be announced immediately after the previous coach resigns. If this had been a football team, I could see them going ahead and announcing it because, I mean, at the end of May, when a coach leaves, I mean, Southside had a football coach leave a couple of years ago at the end of the school year, and it was a month before they named the next coach, Lester Narcisse, the current coach. But during that interim month, it was just a weird time to be doing summer workouts
Right.
in the Southside Fieldhouse. So it's not like girls basketball season was about to start in 2 or 3 weeks. So they had time to try to find the right hire. Now it's still late in the off season to try to make a hire. So I'm not sure what the talent pool was as far as applicants go. But and I imagine a lot of people connected to the program were like, yeah, Jana would be a good one here. But they just want to do their due diligence and make sure Mark Campbell or Gino Oriyama, or however you say his name, from Connecticut was going to come coach him.
Gino turned him down. He didn't want to come to
Yeah.
Jackson.
He kind of ghosted Dexter when Dexter texted him, left him on red.
All right, last thing, end on a super positive note. Trey Smith, Jackson hero, clearly Mayor Scott Conger's favorite NFL player, signed a lucrative. I say that because I feel like Scott posts about Trey Smith like all the time.
Anything that gets positive engagement.
Signed a lucrative deal to remain with the Chiefs. The highest paid offensive guard in NFL history. And we may have talked about this before we started recording or in the rundown. I think that just because Trey is from Jackson, we tend to we tend to underappreciate how great of a football player he is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I feel like this is like the third or fourth time we've talked about him either directly or indirectly on this podcast since we started it. But he has accomplished how many Pro Bowls? At least is there two? Has he been to 2 Pro Bowls or is it just 1?
I think it's just 1. It could be 2, but I think this past year was his first time to be selected for that.
2 Super Bowl championships, and then 1 appearance.
a
or
third
was it
AFC championship. Yeah,
right? Yep. I mean,
and every
and he's on.
year he's been to at least the AFC championship.
Yes, and he's getting better. Like he gets better every year. He is. I was reading today on ESPN where they did the strengths and weaknesses of every team, and I think for the Kansas City Chiefs, it was like their weakness was tackle. But then they went out of their way to say how solid their guards were, specifically Trey. Like,
Hmm.
on one of the best teams in the NFL, he is one of the best players on
Hmm.
one of the best teams in the NFL. That is a huge deal. Did you talk to Trey at all for this, or did you just kind of grab your information from what you were seeing in the national media and formed your story from there?
Trey has not answered my call since he committed to Tennessee. I'm not I'm not bitter about it because he's nice to me when he talks to me when he's here. But I'm like, hey, did you change your number? He's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, can I get those digits? He's like, no. But that conversation has
Okay.
not happened. So,
Okay.
but
Okay.
actually, most of the time when I try to reach out to the Smith family, uh, I go through Ashley. So, anyways, his sister. But no, I didn't talk to him. But I mean, let's look at the numbers here. Like he said, one Pro Bowl, two Super Bowls, one a third appearance in the Super Bowl, uh, AFC Championship appearances rookie year. That was the year they didn't make the Super Bowl. Um, and like I said, Pro Bowl. And what I started to say at the beginning of the thing that I wanted to wait till we got to this point was I remember back in 2023 when USJ retired his jersey. He was home for a day or two, and the town of Three Ways celebrated him by putting signs up at the town limits there on Highway 45 saying "Home of Trey Smith." Um, and it was at that event at Three Way Town Hall that longtime USJ coach Mickey Marley, who was Trey's coach through his junior season,
Hmm.
he talked about he's like the fact that Trey is a starter for a team in the NFL means that he is automatically one of the 32 best at his position because there's 32 teams in the NFL. You look at the fact that they won a Super Bowl and they were on their way at the time to winning their second Super Bowl. That probably puts him in the upper echelon of that. Now he is the highest paid guard in the history of the NFL. He's going to play for the next 4 years. He's guaranteed $70 million, and he's got the potential to get, I think, 94 or 96, somewhere in there. Um, so the Chiefs have pretty much said, you may not be the best in the world at what you do, but we're going to value you like you are the best in the world at what you do. So good for him. I mean, how many sacks has he allowed? Does Patrick Holmes get touched by anybody who lines up against Trey? You watch more NFL than I do.
I don't watch a lot of Chiefs, so I could not answer that with intellectual
So,
integrity.
has he lined up against the Packers? Did they ever get a sack on him?
Not much. No, I don't think in the games that I watched them play. No, but I will say as a guard, he's not getting a lot of edge rushers, but still, no, I think where you said you may not be the best in the world. We're going to pay you like you are. I think also what goes into that, they have a quarterback who a lot of people think is the best in the world. So they're obviously going to value a lineman
Yeah.
that's very, very good, and they're going to pay that lineman a lot of money because, he does do a hell of a job protecting Mahomes. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know this at all, this is just speculation, but I would assume that Mahomes gave his indirect blessing on this too, because I know, if you got an offensive lineman the quarterback doesn't really care for, or is like letting defensive tackles do and getting the quarterback hit all the time, that quarterback's gonna be like, look, like we got to do something different.
Right.
And Kansas City did the opposite of that, right? They locked him up,
Yeah.
guaranteed money, a lot of money. So
Yeah.
good for Trey. Good for
And
Jackson
he's
too.
protecting. Yeah, and he's arguably protecting the face of the NFL right now too. Um,
Oh
so
yeah.
that probably plays into it too. Definitely the face of the Chiefs, but I mean, is any would there who would be the challenger for the biggest star in the NFL the last 4 or 5 years?
Oh man, it's got to be Mahomes at quarterback. I think last year Saquon Barkley might have been right.
Hmm.
I think Jalen Hurts, if he wins the Super Bowl, he might be getting up there too. But I think Mahomes is the guy for sure. Um, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I think they're right there in a couple years. They may be up there with him, but yeah, I think we talk a lot about. We used to get excited in Jackson about people going to pro. Period. No matter if you played a
Right,
lot or you didn't play a lot, you went pro. But now we've
right.
got like somebody who is the best of the best at his position. So
Hmm.
hats off to Trey, and that whole family's great. We talk about them a lot on here, but like his sister's awesome. You mentioned Ashley.
Yeah,
And I knew Ashley when I coached her and taught her in middle school, but Trey was way younger than that, so I never knew
yeah,
him personally. I met him a couple years ago when they were in town for the first time, and he was very nice.
yeah.
What y'all got coming up this week? Anything? Any newsworthy things happening in the city?
Oh, wow. What do I have in the paper? I mean, unfortunately, there's been multiple shootings going on, so we'll have coverage of those based on information given to us by JPD and TBI and the sheriff's office. Um, Skillet's coming to Jackson.
The
The
Christian
Rockabilly's event.
ska band?
I thought they were rock. Maybe they are Christian.
Skillet. Weren't they Christian? I feel like they
Maybe they
were.
were. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've heard of them, but so it probably means they are Christian. Um, the
I feel like I
um,
remember them from the '90s, like when I was in the youth group. So maybe I'm thinking of something different
that may be. Wow, I'm
because they'd be
totally
old.
blanking.
They'd be really old if they were still playing.
Well, they may be.
Okay,
So
I'm just saying.
How
All
about you not
right, I'm just
denigrate them
saying.
before they come to town,
Sorry.
Gabe?
Whoa.
um, and I'm trying to think. What else we got going on? There's a lot of stuff in the paper. Um, I just can't think of any of the stuff
Can't
that
think
I've
of
done.
any of it.
Yeah,
Well, it'll be a
I got
surprise then.
football. Yeah, there you go. I've got football previews starting up after Forever Communications hosted a media day last week at DoubleTree
Mhm.
Hotel. So
You love that,
so I've
didn't
gotten to go to. Oh, of course I did.
you?
That was the best. In fact, this morning, as we're recording this at night on July 22nd, I spent 4 hours this morning in Jackson Madison County School Board committee meetings.
Mm.
And with all due respect to our buddies on the Jackson Madison County School Board, Dr. King, there were multiple times during that 4 hours that I was in there that I was really wishing to be back at the DoubleTree talking football.
I bet. I think I
So
would choose the football over
it's
the
all
over the committee meetings myself.
right. Well, that
Well,
there was some good stuff. I don't know if that'll be in this week's paper, but there's some good stuff talked about there that'll be online later this week.
awesome. All right, Brandon, I appreciate it. Thanks for adjusting the schedule this week, and we'll be back on our regular
Yeah,
time slot Sunday, 9 o'clock. Sound good?
and I'm going to go back in the air conditioning. Yeah.
All right. See y'all later.
All right. See ya.